Hi and welcome to another gaming video, and in today's video I'm going to be playing Tetris on a Game Boy emulator on an old Amazon Fire tablet. So bit of a long story which I will explain. So this is an emulator called My Old Boy Light, and I'm going to be playing Tetris. Ooh. And this is what it looks like. So it looks like a rather large, thin Game Boy. Obviously it's a tablet, so it's got no buttons. So you've got all these on-screen buttons, which I am not a fan of. I don't like mobile gaming. But it is what it is. So it's a nice big 7-inch tablet. The screen actually takes up, well, the Game Boy screen actually takes up about half the screen. So you've got about a 3.5-inch Game Boy screen there. I'm playing a mono game, and it's quite nice because it gives you a, well, it's not black and white and it's not green like you'd get on a Game Boy, but it's somewhere in between. So let's have a quick play and then I'll talk you through how I got it on there. Must say that the audio is pretty decent. Got two speakers, one here and one here on the Amazon tablet. You get quite a decent amount of volume out of it. But I always play with the music off anyway. So this is Tetris, and as you can see, it's like playing on a really large Game Boy. And the first thing you'll notice is obviously they're on-screen buttons. I am not a fan of those. I don't like mobile gaming for that reason, but for this purpose it works very well. So like I said, it's an old Amazon tablet. It's a 2014 model. It's got quad-core processor, 1 gig of RAM, and this model's got 16 gig storage. Obviously it's an Amazon Fire tablet, so I had to sideload the Google Play Store on. Then I had to find a suitable Game Boy emulator. So this is My Old Boy Free. It can play Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. There are some Game Boy Advance emulators out there, which I might try at some point. And the only other thing I had to do is, well, first of all install a file manager so I could move files around, and install and unzip program, because anything you download online usually comes zipped. And it's a pretty good experience. Obviously you've got on-screen controls, which I really do not like. There's no finger feedback. You're constantly looking at the screen to make sure your fingers are in the right place. There doesn't seem to be any input lag, but you just don't get that feel from a proper button. And while I'm playing Tetris, I think if you were to play a game that was slightly heavier, you could end up missing where you need to put your fingers. So this, it kind of gives you this large Game Boy feel. You've got this big slate. It does auto-rotate, so if you fancy playing it in more of a Game Boy Advance style, you can play it that way. Not sure which one I prefer, actually. I don't know whether it's because I'm more used to playing on like a DS these days, or a Vita, with the sort of buttons flanked either side of the console. But I think I prefer playing it in this layout. Performance is absolutely spot on, other than the fact that you're prodding the screen for buttons. I was going to check out some other games, but I thought if I just checked out Tetris, it would fit in with my Tetris series, because I've been looking at every portable version of Tetris that I could for different for different consoles. So I've done the Game Boy, I did the Game Boy Rosy retrospection hack, and then I did Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Japanese Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, 3DS, and the PS Vita, all to see what their Tetris releases were like. Some good, some bad. And then I thought, well, I've got this tablet sitting here, really isn't good for much. I mean, I did a bit of browsing on it and it's, well, a bit slow. But this is original Game Boy Tetris running on a 2014 Amazon Fire tablet, 7-inch HD7, and it's actually, it's pretty good. It's good, a good use of it. As you can see, I think, like I said before, if you were playing a heavier game, or maybe once I get really into sort of, you know, more higher level in Tetris, where the blocks are coming down a lot quicker and you need faster reaction speeds, I think you would probably notice it then, because I don't like these on-screen controls. I mean, some people might. Mobile gaming is very large. In some ways it killed off proper portable gaming. But you just don't get that proper games console feel when you're prodding a screen. As you can see, I'm doing quite well. I think I actually do prefer playing it in landscape mode. I don't think I could play with touch screen controls or on-screen controls for too long. I can play on a handheld console for hours on end, but I'm already feeling the end of my fingers are just feeling a bit odd. But there you go. This is an Android tablet. No, it isn't. This is an Amazon Fire tablet, which technically is an Android tablet, with the Google Play Store side loaded onto it, so I can install some extra bits because the Amazon store is terrible. And I am using it as a rather large Game Boy. The screen is lovely. Like I say, it's got that old school Game Boy screen feel and colour. I did very briefly play FIFA 2000, which is a Game Boy Color game on it, and it was a lovely screen. I don't think it's as crisp and as bright as my DSi XL's IPS display, but it's still a lovely display. certainly much better than playing on original hardware. See, the blocks are now starting to come down a bit quicker. And I don't know whether it's because I'm conscious of the fact that these are on-screen controls. I just don't think you get that finger feedback that you would get if you had a proper D-pad and proper A and B buttons. Whoa. Yeah, they're coming down pretty quick, and I just don't. I'm starting to panic, and when I start panicking, my fingers are not on the virtual D-pad where they should be. It's just a little trickier to play, and I think if you were playing some sort of platformer where the action was a bit more, I think you would struggle with these on-screen controls. But it is a good use of an old tablet or even an old phone. Most things can emulate Game Boy games. Obviously, as long as you've got the original cartridge, then there's no legal issues there. See, my response time is getting shorter and shorter, and I don't feel comfortable at this level playing with these sort of controls. There you go, that's exactly what I mean. One slip up because your fingers are not where they should be. Oh, what have I done? Well, there you go. That is Tetris on a Amazon Fire HD tablet. A good experience and quite a good use for an old tablet. Like I said, the screen size is good. It's a nice, probably about 4-inch screen, and you can play it in portrait or landscape. And there you go. It's quite easy to do. If you had just an older Android tablet, you'd skip the whole having to sideload the Play Store on. I think this runs something like Android 4 or Android 5 with Fire OS across the top, so it is a very old tablet, but it plays Game Boy games very well. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, enjoy.